Hank Hill and Peter Griffin both have braved the Commonwealth and earned their place among the legends of the Fallout universe. But what if someone who actually had combat experience and knew how to rock a suit and tie took a stab at it? Today, we'll be finding out if you could beat Fallout 4 as Stan Smith, a true American patriot that has been seen to use a ton of different weapons in the American Dad show, but to make this a challenge run, I'm only allowed to use the 10mm pistol and wear a blue suit for armor. With that out of the way, let's get into the run. The run begins with the inception of everyone's favorite American Dad, and because I couldn't find a mod to assist or a template for the Crimson Chin or Clef the Boy Should Wonder, this is what we'll be dealing with. As far as stats go, Stan loves the number 3, except for perception. This man can sense someone being unpatriotic from miles away. However, you could take points out of perception, as it turns out I didn't even really use anything in this skill set, and spread them around if you wanted to. 3s and every other special stat gave him options like Gunslinger for his pistol only build, more healing from stim packs and Radaway, Bloody Mess for more damage, Gun Nut to mod said pistol, and Life Giver for more health. Anything past that is dealer's choice, Uncle Sam will still be satisfied. With Stan officially set free into the Commonwealth, he was quickly introduced to the hostile environment. So where is the first place you'd go during an apocalypse? That's right, the police station! Except everyone knows when you want to go to the police, you have to get past the ghoul bouncers and landmines. Good times. On a second attempt, Stan met up with the Brotherhood of Steel and helped them defend their position. He did such a good job that he got invited to a smash and grab to retrieve a deep-range transmitter. On the way, Stan had to show off how much of an asset he was by outrunning Dan's backwards. But inside Arcjet Station, they swapped roles and Dan's was the one to show how much use he was. At this point, Stan's pistol wasn't doing as much damage as he had hoped against the synths inside, but luckily Dan's was able to deal with them while Stan conserved ammo. And to repay Dan's for his efforts, Stan set him on fire! Once Dan's had recovered, the pair continued through the station and were able to retrieve their transmitter. Once outside, Dan's gave Stan an open letter to join the Brotherhood of Steel, but Stan wasn't convinced just yet. Sure, they had fancy guns and giant suits of armor, but he came from an organization that could whip that up in the lab. What else was there out in the Commonwealth? And as if God was answering his prayers, after the success of the mission, a distress signal hit the airwaves. But Stan was confused because it came from the government sector of Vault 111. Only top officials and their cohorts were placed there, so off he went to check it out. Stan had to sneak through tunnels and take out raiders who had taken up living like moles, but once inside the vault, Stan found people still in cryo chambers, and upon freeing them was greeted by General Ward and other members of the Enclave, or at least what was left of it. He told Stan that they were America's best chance of survival, and at the sound of that, Stan was on board. True American heroes doing true American things. However, the Enclave needed help setting things back up if they stood a chance of impacting the Commonwealth's future. Stan and Sergeant Peterson were tasked at recovering a radio tower to send their radio signals to let people know. Hope was on the horizon. The dynamic duo set out for the radio tower. Dealing with the first wave of raiders there wasn't so bad, and they even got the tower back online to boost the radio signal. But then the second wave came, and things took a turn for the worse. Stan was running out of ammo, and the raiders seemed like they would never stop coming. But Sergeant Peterson is secretly a badass, and when things got bad, he carried Stan to victory. However, after seeing how bad his pistol did against normal raiders, Stan went to Diamond City to stock up on ammo and make some very helpful upgrades to make his pistol shots do more damage. With the upgrades sorted, Stan's next mission was to recover a vertibird facility. It would prove to be a great way for the Enclave to maneuver across the Commonwealth. Only issue is, the facility was full of gunners. But whereas the gunners did loads of damage with their laser pistols, Stan was still able to move stealthily through the area and deal with them in small enough numbers as to not be turned into a pile of ash. With the facility under control, it was time to see the old Enclave base. Off the coast of the Commonwealth was an oil rig, but since the bombs, everyone on board had been turned into a ghoul. So the only way to take it back was to charge on board and take the fight to the ghouls. Small tip for this battle, there's no rails keeping you from falling off the edge, so make sure you watch your back. Stan made his way through the ghouls and through the intersections of the oil rig. He had to turn off the alarm that was holding the subterranean section shut. Cue lots of more upfront and personal encounters with semi-unclothed rotting humans trying to get a piece of that ass, and the alarm was turned off. Now, deep underground, and yes, I did say underground. Look, don't ask me how we got here. For anyone who has played Dark Souls 2, this makes about as much sense as taking an elevator into the sky with an open skybox and ending up in a lava-filled zone. Yes, the oil rig is over water, but for the sake of this mod, we are now underground and Stan needed to turn the power back on. So we flipped some switches and now had to deal with not only the ghouls, but a Mirelurk Queen as well. It was time to leave, but Stan had the hardest time making it out of here. The ghouls appeared on the other side of every door before he even stepped through, and his ammo reserves were getting crazy low. Somehow, with the CIA training, he did manage to escape, and after reporting back to General Ward, the mission updated. Apparently, killing that Mirelurk Queen isn't super important. I feel bad for anyone who has to go down there, as that's where all the Enclave power armor is. But now with the oil rig fully operational, the Enclave could begin recruiting once again. It was only a matter of time before they were a force to be reckoned with. General Ward, being pleased with Stan's work so far, tasked him with recovering some science doohickeys for Dr. Kane. Consider it a job done, as Stan Smith would be back before they knew it. But he definitely wasn't back before they knew it. Not by a long shot. It wasn't because of the hostile environment leading up to the facility. It wasn't even the raiders hiding out here. No, it was far worse. Stan managed to grab one of the pieces Dr. Kane requested, but then a Brotherhood member showed up to tell him that he was working for the enemy, and if he continued, he would be on the Brotherhood's naughty list. It was time to tussle, and permanently lock the Brotherhood out of an option. But by tussle, I mean Stan got blasted. A lot. There's not a whole lot you can do when fighting against a suit of power armor with only a ballistic weapon. That's kind of the whole point of power armor, is to mitigate that sort of thing. But with enough trial and error, Stan did eventually manage to take down one Brotherhood member. Except, where there's one, there's bound to be more. And lots of them. What came next was the biggest hodgepodge of bullshit I've ever had to play through. Stan had to conserve ammo because it took like 8 clips to take down one guy, but since his next piece of tech was surrounded by people with automatic laser weapons and suits of armor that could block hallways, this meant he was running headfirst into hell and dying over and over again. There were some times where he could shoot a knight to get it to move just enough for him to slip by, but damn was this tough. After grabbing the second piece of text, Stan now had to make it out of hell, which proved harder than getting in. However, if you wait long enough, all of the knights can come to you, and this allowed him to slip past. For the final piece, Stan had to run past gunners, but without giant suits of power armor, these guys proved much easier to deal with. With everything secured, an explosion went off, but luckily it was the Enclave coming to assist. It's about damn time. Together with the homies, they fought through super mutants and recovered an FEV sample for Dr. Kane, and now they could all return to General Ward. General Ward showed Stan the new support the Enclave had received from him resetting the radio tower, and Stan even got a new set of gear. But to stay true to the challenge aspect of the run, he went back to his suit and tie. Without a moment of rest, Stan was thrown back into the front lines. This time, however, it was to take over a police station the Brotherhood of Steel had turned into their base. This was partly due to us needing a forward operating base in the Commonwealth, but also to learn if anything the Brotherhood were planning against the Enclave. But as expected, the superior troops smashed through the Brotherhood ranks, and the police station was now ours. And turns out, the Brotherhood were planning something. They were trying to bomb our oil rig and take us out before we mobilized more troops. While discussing with the higher-ups of what the next step would be, Dr. Kane showed us what all of the fetch quests done for her were meant to do. The Enclave now had a way to kill off any radiated material and humanoids. This would give humanity the best chance at recovering from the bombs that tried to wipe out civilization. But of course, the Brotherhood couldn't allow that. The oil rig was now under attack, and Stan did his best to support his comrades and fight the opposition. But suits aren't meant for this kind of work. Once the battle had ceased, Stan met up with the officials once again, and they had one chance to strike back against the Brotherhood before they were attacked again. Turns out the Brotherhood had a missile site where the Enclave could fly in and take it over, turning the missile on the Brotherhood instead. But Stan would have to go in solo and disable the anti-air guns to allow the vertibirds to fly in. Luckily, the guards around the anti-air guns were nothing special, and soon the Enclave soldiers were on the ground assisting with the major assault. Together they fought through the Brotherhood and reclaimed the missile silo in the name of the Enclave. However, as war-hungry as the Enclave was up until this point, once the silo was captured, they stopped their conquest? This left Stan confused. What was he supposed to do now? America was still in shambles and the good guys were now taking a break, but Stan decided that he would continue fighting. Surely another faction was seeking the same goal as him. So Stan did some door-to-door visits until he stumbled upon Ellie, who lost her boss. Bosses are needed to make sure workers work, so Stan went off to fix this tragedy. But considering how he had just gone up against the Brotherhood of Steel with only a souped-up pistol, the triggerman holding Nick captive never stood a chance. This just goes to show that crime doesn't pay. Unless it's with your life, and if it's that case, then yeah, business is booming. Stan freed Nick and then insulted the boss of the wannabe mobsters, so of course he had to show him why a modified 10mm pistol is the superior weapon for diplomacy. Back in town, Stan talked with Nick about his missing son, Steve, but not in the manner of like, oh my god, my child is missing. More in the sense of, yeah, the quest objective says I should probably ask about this. And considering he did an entire faction questline before even touching the main story, it was time to get back on track.
This is why I had children, so one day I wouldn't have to be around them.
With Nick's guidance, Stan made it to Fort Hagen and fought through the synths inside, but as he fought through them, he couldn't help but think that this didn't make him feel anything at all.
Lately, I've been thinking about all the people I've had to kill.
God, the first 5-10 times you take a life, it's eerie. You remember every detail. I can see all their faces. One had a beard. Each time I pulled the trigger, I tied a little knot in my memory that no amount of whiskey could loosen. Of course, eventually I stopped caring. Now I can put a bullet through a man's head while figuring out how much KFC to pick up on my way home. It's usually no more than a bucket.
After a slog of communication via bullets, Stan arrived at Kellogg, who confirmed he took Steve. So Stan did the only thing he could do. He gave him a permanent retirement from life.
It's about time that the hunter who became the hunted becomes the hunter. Again.
After stealing everything on his person and checking his files, Stan made his way to Dr. Amari and dove through Kellogg's memories to find the next step. Now it was time to visit our friendly neighborhood scientist in the glowing sea. The travel wasn't anything crazy, but Stan did have his info broker get ripped apart by a rad scorpion. Luckily, she had a note on her person to point him to Virgil. Now, with the Jolly Green Giant, Stan was tasked with hunting down a courser to grab his brain chip to learn how to get inside the Institute. A science wonderland with tech and weapons beyond a mere mortal's comprehension. Stan was now intrigued. He made his way to Green Tech Genetics and used the same pistol used to fight suits of power armor, so you already know how this went. And when he made it to the courser, Stan used his elite training to take them down before they even knew what was happening. With the chip in hand, he made it to the railroad and got them to decipher the chip, and returning to Virgil, he now had schematics to build a teleporter. Only problem is he needed help building it. Now at this point in the run, Stan was hoping that the Enclave would come back online to help him finish the fight, but it didn't seem like that was going to be an option. And trust me, I did tons of looking to try and make Stan's dream come true. So instead, he freed the Minutemen, shot some poor bastard, and built the teleporter, allowing him inside the Institute. Although, while he expected to find someplace impressive, he was surprised at how much like the CIA it felt. He found Steve inside and then met with Father, and while the two talked, Stan found out that they too hated the Brotherhood and could help him achieve the Enclave's goal of eradicating them. Stan was sold and immediately began to work for the Institute. Stan fought through a flotilla and shot up a whole host of raiders, and when it came time for their leader, he used his soft, sultry voice to lure it to sleep and take out the guards. Then it was time for a battle at Bunker Hill. Our brave hero fought his way through not only the Brotherhood, but also the railroad. Nothing was going to stop America's progress, not even ships carrying troops, or walking tanks with miniguns. More synths were located inside, and Stan once again lured them to sleep. Mission accomplished. By proving himself to the Institute, it was announced during a board meeting that he would take over in the case of Father's untimely death. Talk about foreshadowing, am I right? The Institute needs a strong power source for the future, and at the mention of killing more Brotherhood members, Stan was at the ready. Between him and Dr. Fillmore, they ransacked the power station to retrieve a super battery. Stan even got up close and personal with a masseuse robot along the way. With the battery secured, the Institute needed a scientist to help with future plans, and Stan was sent to investigate. And besides the raiders outside, this was your typical Sunday outing. Stan convinced the scientist trapped in the closet to come out and be his true self, and Father was so pleased he had Stan record a speech. Diamond City was spruced up to make sure it could broadcast the signal, and now Stan was on the last of his chores. Step 1 was taking care of the railroad, and if anyone was right for the job, it'd be him. With them out of the way, it was time to remove the last thorn in the Institute's side, the Brotherhood of Steel. Stan was teleported to their base and started doing what he does best. The goal was to take out batteries blocking synths from relaying in, which was like flipping a switch for Stan. With more batteries destroyed and more synths able to join the fight, the Institute forces were able to quickly overwhelm the Brotherhood's members. Now with complete chaos overtaking the Boston airport, Stan and the synths moved to overtake Liberty Prime and turn it on the Brotherhood. This was pretty straightforward, as the synths were absolutely destroying the scribes and low-ranking soldiers, and after being bought enough time, Liberty Prime was officially on the Institute's payroll. With one blast of its lasers, it was able to finish what the Enclave started, and after reporting back to Father and watching him have a workplace accident, the run was concluded and Stan was now able to shape the Commonwealth as he saw fit. Apparently, the American Rising mod, which introduces the Enclave, did once upon a time have the same ending as the Institute, but the mod creator changed it so introducing new quests in the future wouldn't be a nightmare story-wise. And the Enclave Resurgence mod is similar in the sense that it doesn't end the game, it only allows the Enclave to be a faction within the Commonwealth. All in all, they're both great mods to check out, and for anyone looking to spice up your playthroughs, it's good fun and I highly recommend it. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel out a ton. And remember guys, at 10,000 subs, I will do the Fallout New Vegas Dust mod with 1 health. I've heard it's going to be the hardest thing ever, but I'm willing to do it for you guys. Plus, if you have a suggestion for a challenge run you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. I play all sorts of games, so no challenges off the table. I want to thank all of you that watched to this point, and as always, I have been Chris from Crisis Gaming, and I will see you on the next one.